Hello, everyone. My name is Rose Simpson. I'm a librarian at the New Haven Free Public Library, and welcome to Co-Create. We have here today Nadine Nelson and Cynthia Beth Rubin, and we're all going to have lots of fun making art together. So would you two like to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Nadine Nelson. I'm the chef, owner, educator, artist of Global Local Gourmet. It's an interactive culinary education company. Um, I am also the creative in residence. I have the pleasure of being the creative in residence for the New Haven Public Library, Free Public Library this year. And we have a Wednesday program each week in which I get to talk to a creative about their process, about their art journey, about what they create. People get to join us and either create with us or ask questions or get inspiration about what they might be creating. So we have a wonderful artist here today, Cynthia Rubin, who just turned 70. So let's wish her a happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank
And
you.
I moved back to New Haven 10 years ago, and we both used to work out of a space called The Grow, which was a co working space before there were co working spaces. And Cynthia used to come to my programs, and, you know, I was inspired by her art life, and she's come to my openings and been so encouraging, and I really appreciate her. Um, and I'm so glad that she's here to join us and talk to us about a lot of the wonderful things that she does. So I'll hand it over to Cynthia.
Great. So thank you, Nadine. Yes, we met each other at this wonderful co-working space. I miss co-working. I'm taking a break from co-working until probably for about a year or more.
Until it is safe to co-work.
Until it's safe to co-work. It's and it's actually been interesting discovering my home space, and I have a apartment upstairs where I've always kept a small studio and then rented out the other rooms. But obviously I don't want to rent the rooms to unknown visiting researchers and graduate students at the moment. So it's kind of been a really interesting thing to move my space around in my head as well as other stuff. I'm really happy to see who else is on the call today. So I'm just going to shout out who's here because I know Yona Ver, who has been a friend for a long time. We've exhibited together. We actually met first when she came to New Haven to participate in this big exhibit that we had based on the historic Orchard Street Shul, when we did an open call for artists who were interested in responding, artists of all backgrounds. It was a state designated historic building, but they were trying to save it and draw attention to it. And we met, and she's also the president of the Jewish Art Salon, which she founded. And you know, I just want to say animates in the French sense of animate, but there's no other way to say it. Like, you know, whenever everybody's kind of like, oh, I'm so busy, I can't do anything, you know, it's like, and we have to do this and this. So, and she's a wonderful artist in her one life, and in her other life, she's a wonderful, I don't know, Yona, we can't really restore, finish, paint muralist restorer, right? How would you describe?
Well, I've done a little bit of actually I'm doing a restoration job right now in Harlem, which is the ceiling of the theater right next to the Apollo Theater. And it's become a community center and a hotel and etc. So yes, I do some restoration, but the digital background that I have behind me is one of my other day jobs, which is applying gold leaf to our architectural surfaces. So this is a huge Art Deco ceiling that I did.
That is a lot of gold leaf.
Oh yeah, this was months and months of work. I had to hire
goodness.
10 people to help me.
Beautiful.
Thanks. Cynthia, you're muted.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And yes, in addition to everything else, Yona's contributing to the New York economy. So it's really wonderful. So we also have here Catherine Keller. She's actually one of the few people who's, I think, saw what I'm working on now, who's a student at UNH, and she saw my exhibit last year and just interviewed me this week. Or was it last week? I mean, life is a blur. When you have to present stand from your living room, so you have to like go to sleep at midnight, 1 o'clock, and be up again at 4:15. It takes more than a week to recover. Not the same as being flown over, put up in a fancy hotel and had meals, but it's been wonderful. So, Catherine, are you able to introduce yourself?
If you type something in the chat, I'll read it out for everyone. And that goes for everyone. If you want to make any comments, type it in Zoom, or if you're watching us on Facebook, I'm keeping an eye on both of those chats and I can read things out for anyone.
Okay. So she may be well, not able to jump in right now. What about Aaron? Aaron, do you want to introduce yourself? Okay, so Aaron.
Yep, I'm here.
Hello.
Just checking it out. Longtime friend of Cynthia and Nadine.
So, and I have to say, Aaron participated in the plankton drawing workshop. So not only does he come to art exhibits, and he's very active in the community. Aaron is somebody who shows up at everything. But he did great drawings last year, so it's really great to see him here again. Okay, so I think there may be Facebook people, and a lot of people said they were coming, but they're not here yet.
Yeah, we've got 4 people currently watching on Facebook. It doesn't say who.
Okay, so they're watching.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to just jump in and show a little bit of what I've been working on, and then we can do plankton drawing or not if people are interested. How does that sound?
I'm just drawing. I just felt like doodling today because you said we're going to be drawing, and I don't draw usually, so I'm just drawing. I'm not doing anything heavy. I have some stuff to show if people want to see it after you do your presentation from some of my installations. But
oh, do you want to do that first, Nadine?
No.
Because I kind of had this plan that then I would jump into stuff that I'm going to draw from. So
it's all right. I brought it here because it's fine.
Okay, and by the way, Nadine is in this space. If you're not familiar with MakeHaven, do you want to tell us a little bit about it, Nadine?
Yeah, so MakeHaven is a maker space, and so I Squared has a Tinker lab, and so since it's closed, and I can't activate that space, I thought to be able to use MakeHaven, which is open, and they do socially distance. There's only it's a huge space. In this main space that I'm in right now, 15 people can be in here. There's only 2 other people here. There's someone that's coming out of the metal lab and someone else there's a couple other people, I think, in the wood lab, but there is a kitchen space, there's private studio space, there's all types of interesting kind of gadgets for people to use, 3D printers, sewing machines, all different types of stuff. So each week
they've got like a laser cutter, a vacuum former, CNC routers, all kinds of woodworking and metalworking equipment, sewing machines, a lot of cool stuff. Heat presses. I think they've got like home brewing equipment if you ever wanted to try that.
Yeah, if you want to be able to make beer or kombucha or sourdough starter. So it's a great place to come every week, and I'll just be doing whatever I feel and getting to learn how to use some of the machines as my residency goes on over the next 6 months.
And obligatory plug for the library. When we are open, the Tinker Lab also has laser cutter, 3D printers, vinyl cutter, CNC router, which is like a wood carving machine, sewing machines, a Cricut machine. we've got good stuff too.
Wow, what a fantastic library.
Yep, and the libraries is free. You just have to take a training class, which is also free.
And the library also has microscopes.
Wow.
So I'm going to be showing microscopic life. And in fact, people can go to the library. And when I say sign out, then I have to say, but not out sign out, just sign out. But still,
use it within the library.
Yeah, use within the library. But we are just, this is such an incredible community with all these resources, because I also have to add that with your library card, you get Creative Bug and Canopy, 7 free movies a month. Just have to plug that because I've really been doing that. Like, who needs to pay for all those other services? PBS $5 a month, Canopy free. And
we also have Hoopla, which is ebooks, audiobooks, movies, TV episodes, comics, and music, which is also, I think that's, I forget if it's 3 or 5 checkouts a month, but that also, you can get free movies that way too.
Uh-oh.
Hoopla, it's great.
Didn't know that. Okay. And Steve, you just joined us. Do you want to introduce yourself? He may be.
Got the phone ringing in the background. Yeah, just Cynthia and I went to the same college way back when, in the last century. And I'm recently retired. I dedicated my career to public health, mostly workplace health and safety. And so I'm doing a lot, come out of retirement to help my previous employer do a lot of work around COVID-19, a lot of calls with folks working in nursing homes and trying to get management to do the right thing. So we also own a used bookstore up in Hamden. My wife runs and called Books and Company. And we are open, not as many hours, but definitely open every day but Monday. So if you haven't ever had a chance to stop by, that's great. Legal Grounds is a coffee place inside the bookstore. Great coffee. And we're open to sponsoring and supporting community activities. So I thought I'd just check out to see what's going on this call.
Thank you. I love Books and Company.
That's great. By the way, Steve, for when my Japan presentation happens, they asked me to reflect on my student years. And I ended up doing a lot of research about Paul Schertz, who's he's no longer living, but a very famous filmmaker who was my film history teacher. I didn't actually make films, I was a painter. And it was an incredible experience researching, and thinking about those Antioch years. So
my only film experience was actually, I took a class with Julia Reichart and Jim Klein, who were, now Julia's an Academy Award winner. And I was the researcher on a film called Song of the Canary, which didn't get nominated for an Academy Award in documentaries, but it did unearth a couple health and safety crises, including a chemical plant in California where the men had become infertile given their exposure to a particular chemical. So unfortunately, I haven't been able to work on film since then, but I was proud of that work.
that's really great. And it's time to get back into it anyway. But you're doing very important work now, when this very important, all-consuming. So I put together a presentation. The problem with Keynote, I realized when I did this, the host disabled attendee screen sharing. Host?
She can enable yours.
Sorry, I was muted. I can make you a host. One moment.
Okay.
Or perhaps a co-host.
I have been to so many meetings where this happens. It's like it's the norm.
Okay, now see if you can screen share.
Okay. So what I've discovered about Keynote is that if I run this, I don't think that I can see anybody, but I'm going to try. Oh, it's working, that I can see. Wonderful. Okay. So this is my most recent piece, which was in answer to a call for a show on the theme of Genesis. And I took the approach that everything always existed. It just had to evolve. That was my philosophical take on it, which I'm not unique, I think, in that assumption that everything, the potential for everything existed. So this piece has everything in it. It has leaves, it has plankton, it has water, it has air, it has currents. And what's kind of unusual about it for me, a direction that's emerging right now, is that it has this ice fish coming down. And the ice fish, which I don't think you can see my cursor, so it's just the black and white fish, ice fish has only been around for 7 million years. It's in Antarctica. But it's kind of a stand-in for myself. I realize that more and more I'm putting things in my work, not gradually, it's just starting. I'm putting things into my work that feels like a little bit of a stand-in for myself. And, what's happening? Okay. This is a detail. So you can see the fish and you can see how very textured it is. This is a piece that went in and out of the computer several times, but it was mostly resolved inside the computer, and I may take it into a film or augmented reality with the new Adobe suite that just came out. First, I have to decide which new computer I'm going to get, having made up my mind, and then just before I ordered, Apple came out with a new computer and I have to rethink the whole process. But I want to have the new Adobe suite running a faster computer for myself. So this was a piece that I did this spring on Susan Turner, who's an artist who I actually know through the Jewish Art Salon, lives in Winnipeg, curated a show on the theme of roundness. And so this was my piece on roundness. It's recapturing, in a sense, a moment I had when I was scuba diving and I looked into the water and I saw the vast nothingness that's in the water. And again, the ciliate that's coming down from the top, I mean, I did this one first, so not again, but first, is a little bit of a stand-in for myself. So that was an interesting thing when I realized that. The diatom chains, which are the other little beastie things in there, I actually didn't scan those. Heather McNear and Jacob Strock from the Mendendura Lab at the University of Rhode Island did 3D scans of those. So we actually have them swimming in 3D. And I always thought, oh, I wanted to work with them because of putting in the potential to work on this later and where it's going to go. And then I included the Hebrew manuscript. So I'd had this long interest in Hebrew manuscripts as source material, integrated them together every now and then. This is not like a talk, a review of my whole career. I've given other talks and those are online, so you can see some of those. And but for me, integrating that kind of the idea that something's always been around. So here is the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, which kind of started this whole immersion idea. This is actually a detail from an old painting, but it is what I saw when as we were returning to the ship after seeing all the incredible coral and fish and all the stuff that you see on all the National Geographic specials. I looked down and I saw something that looked like this, and that was my unbelievably aha moment. It was like, there's nothing there. It goes all the way down. There's nothing there. And I felt myself to be like a nothing. So this is the manuscript. It's from Cairo, from Egypt, from 1008 or so. It's called the Leningrad manuscript or codex because it's in Leningrad. And these manuscripts are not named after where they were created, but where they are today. So it confuses people a little bit. Like, what's Russian about it? You said it's from Egypt. Well, that's because that's where it is. So I was looking for circles, and yeah, did you have a question? So as you probably know, I happen to be illiterate in Hebrew. I mean, I've got a few words I can read, but really when people are looking at this kind of manuscript, they don't expect to really read it. They expect to, it's like a reminder. It's like an elegant footnote to go read the real commentary and to read more about the text. So back to this, you can see how I combine them. I took the plankton and the manuscript and the idea of being in the deep water and kind of feeling like, you're nowhere. We're like the plankton. We're little nothings in the world. Okay, this is a different version of it. I did many, many versions, and I wasn't very happy with this one. Didn't quite resolve for me. And so I put it on my studio wall and started drawing on it right on top of it. I mean, I got it printed, obviously, first out of the computer, and then put it on the wall and started drawing on top of it. And I have it on one of them is still up there. Okay, on two different, one on our nice archival paper, the other on poster paper. So the poster paper ones are meant to be just to draw on. They're not at all archival, and they take different kinds of materials, which I'll talk about when we look at it. When I'm drawing on the archival paper, I use pencils, colored pencils, and the final result is in fact still archival. When I'm drawing on the poster paper, I can go much larger. I wait till there's a sale and I get like the big print like this was like $20. So, because it was on sale and it's not meant to last. And I can use crayons and other things. And this is the finished piece that I got from that, which is a detail of it. But I really felt like this really brought it together for me. It shows the Hebrew manuscript is the little squirrely things are like plankton. If anybody has any questions, can you just like jump in and say if you have anything you want to say? Okay, so I'm building up to, okay, this guy that I just finished. I wanted to talk a little bit about my process. So that's like a little bit of process for that one. So the idea was to do something based on Genesis. And so I found a manuscript and I forgot to look up when this was done. So I'll have to look up later. Bad scholarship here. I think it's from the Middle Ages, from Spain. And I wanted the word Genesis to be able to come through. So, because that was my original idea. I didn't think of how I was going to deal with the whole Genesis thing. I thought, well, I'll have the word and I'll have some words there. If you saw my show at ArtSpace last year, you know that I had a big mural on one wall that was abstracted ocean. And so I took this ocean, a fragment of that, and I threw it onto the Genesis manuscript. And I took the ice fish that had been filmed, not by me, by actually Mary Kane was the oceanographer who was on the cruise. They're called cruises, but it's not like Disney cruise. It's like submarine cruise, only they're above water, but it's not like fancy. But she was on the cruise that went to Antarctica and had these pictures of the ice fish. And I threw in some other stuff from previous work that had been in the show at ArtSpace. And I started to develop it. And I got this far along, and I still had this idea that Genesis had to show somehow. And these kind of, I threw flowers on it, but they started to look like butterflies. And I was like, okay, this is great. Everything's there. And it's feeling like Genesis. So I sent it off. I added some trees. I added like this little drawing of a diatom chain in the lower right, which looks like an individual that's kind of staring into this clearing. the word Genesis started to get obscured, and the ice fish didn't feel in this piece as much as a stand-in for myself as a little guy, or the diatom chain. So it's a collection of guys. It's actually a colony of guys over on the lower right. So I sent that off to be printed, and in fact, that's what I put on my studio wall. Let's see, I'm going to go over there in a little while, but over there on my studio wall is that print. So I plan to draw on that tonight. Here's a detail so you can see that it's pretty already very involved with sticks and fish and other things. So, but moving right along to get to the piece that I got to, then I thought, it really needs water. The beginning of time, like, that's water. So I took this picture of water and I threw it on top and started working into it some more. And voila, this is the piece that you've now seen 3 times. How boring. But it tells you a little bit about my process. So any questions at this point? Comments? Oh.
How did you you didn't really talk about your process of going from, a Jewish subject to your plankton? Do you want to talk about how that process happened?
You mean how I got to plankton, or?
Yeah, and then from going from Jewish subjects to plankton, that's kind of disparate. So do you want to talk about that process?
Oh, I could.
When I was reading, about you, I just thought that would a clear delineation about how you got one to the other. So.
Okay, let me see if I have.
We have a comment from Yona. No questions, but it's gorgeous. I have to go home now. Sorry to miss the rest. Well, Yona, this will be recorded on our Facebook if you want to catch it later.
Okay, she may have already left. I will see if I'm just looking at the talk that I just prepared to see if there's something here that I can show you kind of cannibalizing from another talk. Okay. So when I was a painter, I think that finding form was always difficult for me. Like, I loved color. I loved it a lot. I'm gonna show you this is actually painting from my undergraduate years. So this is all about the abstract expressionist idea of color, of push-pull. I don't know if you're familiar with Hans Hofmann philosophy of color, that there's orange on the left that looks like it's coming forward, and then you see a similar, actually brighter orange on the upper right behind, or middle right, so kind of middle, and that is being pushed back by the blue. But if you just think about the oranges, they seem to float forward and be on the same plane. So I was really interested in these ideas of color, but I needed something to contain them. And so I looked at Indian and Persian manuscripts for a long time. And then I started looking at Hebrew manuscripts. And for me, the idea of the Hebrew manuscripts was really structure. So this is a scroll of Esther, and you see the arches provided a kind of structure, and the fact that there was a border and that forms came from nature. And so I took that and I did this painting, which is from 1985. And this was a painting, a big thing in the mid 80s, or maybe all through the 80s, was getting a solo show in New York, and being noticed enough to be written up somewhere, and Arts Magazine usually wrote up a lot of people. You know, I had one of those little lines in the New Yorker, "What's on this week?" whatever, in my show. It's like, you know, I felt like, oh, I've arrived. But what this painting was about was moving from right to left in the same way that the manuscript moved. So that was really important to me, to, as a formal idea, and working with the color. But I wasn't really thinking about the manuscript that much as a manuscript. I wasn't thinking of it as having anything to do with any of my background as an Eastern European Ashkenazi Jew. It really had to do with looking for structure. And I had looked at Indian and Persian art the same way. And I think that there's a whole wealth of material out there. It was really important for me to get away from Western wall painting as my only influence, which actually was an awareness that I had starting when I was in graduate school in the mid-70s, which was the aftermath of the Vietnam War. And we were all kind of woken up. Well, I wouldn't say all, because if we were all, our world would be in a different place. And I don't want to take too much credit for myself. I still have a lot to learn too. But this awareness that there are many sources of inspiration out there besides Western European wall painting done by men. So this was part of that journey. And then I got on a computer, and this is a very early computer piece. So this is from '84, actually, one of my first computer pieces. And then I moved into taking this idea of arches, etc., into the computer. So that's kind of where I was. And that stayed with me for a really long time. I guess I could show one more of these. Here, I don't know, because I didn't arrange this to be, you may be seeing the piece on the right cut off. I'm not sure if what view you have, but this piece, the Marseille Bible, I was not only given permission to photograph it, but actually encouraged to photograph it. I think I have bibliothèque spelled wrong. The accent is wrong, direction on the E, I'm not sure. But it was a Bible that was done in Toledo, Spain in 1260. As I mentioned earlier, the manuscripts are named after the city they're in now, not where they were created. What's interesting about this Bible is that it left Spain with the expulsion in 1492, went to present-day Safed, Israel, and, well, wasn't present-day Israel, went to Safed, and was there for about 100 years, and then no one knows what happened to it. So it's got a whole other story that I've done a lot of pieces on, because it just mysteriously appeared in the Bibliothèque Municipale in Marseille, and the only thing we know is that it did not come at the time of the revolution, because those were meticulously cataloged, and that's it. No one knows where it came from, how it got there. Did someone feel guilty and sneak it in, or was it there all along and no one saw it? I mean, who knows? So that, this whole kind of history, as I looked at these, I went to Spain and I looked at the motifs in the architecture in Spain, and I noticed it was very similar to what was in the Bible. And so that idea of place became very important to me. But the manuscripts, you know, now what I do with the manuscripts is much more about a stand-in for tradition, a symbol for something that's bigger than myself, maybe a little bit of a reference to identity. I'm not sure. I really don't know why I'm using them. That's the answer. I mean, I really just don't know, but it provides the backdrop and a kind of inspiration. And as I said with the last piece, I started out thinking the words Genesis. I learned to read the word Genesis in Hebrew and was looking for manuscripts that actually said it. And I thought, okay, I'm going to get like designy with this. And then it went away. It just became an inspiration. And in fact, there's nothing left there in the final image. So, and by the way, in 1997, actually 1996, I had an artist residency at Centre Copier in Montreal, and printing was prohibitively expensive in those days. You would never draw on a print, but I had a way to make color photocopies of my photographs and of digital images. And then the following year, I went back to Avignon, where I had lived off and on for a while, and just took this stack of color photocopies with me and cut them up and painted on top of them. And that's where I did this piece, which in the end is just digital. And I don't know, could everybody see this? I mean, I can move it over here if you have your computer set.
Yeah, I can see that. Like a kind of pointy plankton on blue.
There's no plankton here.
Oh.
This is all pre-plankton. So this
Oh,
is,
no, a moment ago, which showed something else.
okay. So this is, yeah, a moment ago. Yeah. So this is playing with the idea of the Hebrew manuscript and place. This is all about motif from the manuscript, and then images of Toledo, place. So, okay. So I'm going to leave this one behind and go here, because what I really wanted to do now was to start do some drawing and not to talk anymore. Unless anybody has questions.
Any questions?
Okay.
All right to have questions.
Or comments, or because we can co-create. Let me come over here. I got to turn on my light. Because otherwise I would just be like in the dark while I'm drawing. So I think the idea for me was, if I can step out of the way, this image that I just showed you inside the computer, I have here on my wall. And this is, what I do. I have a pile here on the floor of prints and plankton drawings. And this serratium, actually, I can show you a little bit before we draw. So this is a serratium. And then this is actually a piece I did many years ago, and probably from the same colony, even though this is like 10 years ago. The source came from the same lab. So it could, that's why they may look a lot alike. So I've been working with this serratium, but one of the people in the lab right now, Pierre, has been photographing this serratium. This is a new photograph. And I wanted to show you, this is really, really slowed down, like unbelievably slowed down, so that you can see the guy, and it's looping back and forth. So you can see the serratium kind of sticking out. Kind of looks like he's sticking out a tongue or something. I'm not an oceanographer. I'm not going to make this a science lesson. Whatever I tell you about what the serratium is doing is probably wrong.
Cynthia, are you there, or have you frozen?
It's just frozen.
Yeah, it appears so. Well, Nadine, are you working on anything right now, or?
Yeah, well, I was just drawing. I was just doodling. So while she's out, I guess I'll just show people some other stuff. Last week I was making a mirror. I was working on a
Stop
mirror.
the screen sharing so we can see what you're doing.
Okay.
Is it not letting
Like,
me?
can you zoom in on this?
Okay, there we go.
So, so Cynthia's back, I think.
Yep.
Well, I'm kind of back, so I guess I'm back. I thought the reason I need a new computer is because the battery is dead in my computer and it wasn't plugged in all the way, so it died. But I actually have two computers, so I jumped over to the other one. But I think, and I can pull up the PowerPoint here. I just won't be able to see it as well when I'm drawing, but I think, so I might be in two places. Why don't you go ahead and talk, Nadine, for a second?
Okay. So last year I got into doing a bunch of installations. And so usually, if people are familiar with my art, I do food art. And so it's under the realm of social sculpture. So I bring people together and then they interact around a particular topic or theme. And so I decided last year that I was going to take my work up a notch because food art, obviously you eat it and then it dissipates. So I decided to make installations. And so installations are rooms.
We have a comment in the chat. Heidi says, Cynthia, I'm loving hearing how your various pieces evolved.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that. That's nice. Heidi, by the way, was one of my college roommates. So
Okay.
it's really great to have big showing here from my college years.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Yeah, it is interesting about your process and how those historical documents, how, you know, doing stuff with the computer, how they change. But I like the notion of arches in your work and seeing that type of progression. That's really interesting. So,
Yeah.
So this installation, I don't know if you can see it now. Can you? Okay, yeah. So, and then another time I will make a slideshow. But Oshun is the Yoruba goddess of love, abundance, and prosperity. And she is from Nigeria, and this is a room that I made that was in New London. There's a bodice, and then I do a lot with fabric and domestic arts when I'm not doing food art. And so there's an altar right here, and there's symbols of Oshun that are all throughout the installation. And so the fabric that is on this bodice and this mannequin represents water because she's also the goddess of fresh water, so therefore the goddess of life. So all this fabric right here is supposed to be a metaphor for a stream or ocean, and then there's different symbols in the ocean. There were shells and all that kind of stuff. But here on her altar, her symbols are gourds, so squash, sunflowers, yellow, orange. Those separate motifs.
And excuse me, Nadine, could you turn it because we're only seeing it on its side?
Okay, let me see. Okay.
And now we're seeing a lot of glare.
I know.
Can you move it? Yeah, you're
Glare
seeing.
in this particular photograph, though. There is glare in this particular photograph.
The glare is okay.
So that,
see it standing. Yeah, that's good.
yeah. So that's me in front of the altar. And so when you have your different gods, you do an altar to them of things that they like. Here is a close-up of the bodice. I'm sorry about the glare. And it's supposed to, you can go sit down and interact and take pictures. And so I guess you can probably see me in the piece. Here you can see the bodice and the river and the things that were in the river that represent opulence and fertility. I was trying to channel Renee Cox, who is a photographer, but also puts herself in her work. So I was channeling Oshun, the goddess. African fabric and modern version of a sunflower. Here's a little more close-up of the altar. There's oil, there's love drawing oil, because she's the goddess of love. There's shells, there's honey, sunflowers, all kind of symbols of her. Here is love drawing oil, if you believe in that. Here is an African comb, which she also type of things. She's goddess of food and cooking. So you have a mortar and pestle and cooking implements, boards. And then I started making, last week I made a mirror. This is another mirror that I made. That kind of represents the goddess Oshun in different personifications. Her number is 5, so I made 5 necklaces.
What, can you tell me what you mean by your number is 5?
Her spiritual number is 5. So all the different African gods, Nigerian gods, they have a particular number that's associated with them. So 5 is her number. And so when I put everything in regards to the installation and on the altar, I did things in the number 5. So there's 5 pennies that were on the altar, 5 necklaces, 5 candles. So to keep with her spirit, you're supposed to have a piece that's her personification of her. So I created that. You're supposed to have some kind of picture that personifies her. Here, there's a little less glare. So this year, I'm going to be making some more pieces to put in the installation. So that is a queen conch. A queen conch is black and is very rare. And then there is coral and pumpkin, and those are all her symbols. Here are some gold shoes that were kind of representative of Cinderella and some other things that were on. Let's see, 5 candles, 5 plates, 5 of everything. You can go now, Cynthia.
Okay. So I love the intense cultural, I mean, we feel, you know, there's a kind of nuance, cultural nuance in these pieces.
Yeah, so I am not Nigerian, or I am Nigerian by way of slavery, I guess, or being enslaved. But what I love about the channeling Oshun is feeling connected, but what she personifies to other people. So, you know, like whether it's Aphrodite or Venus, you know, like there's all goddesses of love. And I love creating works in relation to her. So I've done this exhibit twice. Once it was done by itself, as just a box by itself as part of another exhibit. The next time it was part of other artwork that personified Oshun by other artists surrounded my installation. So I'm just trying to create more things so it can go in bigger places, and that one day a museum will buy my installation for lots of money. I'm just putting it out there.
Great. Well, you'd be commissioned. Are you,
Yep.
are you, I hope that all artists, and I'm talking to myself too, are with the Connecticut Commission on the Arts. Like, I really need to update my file, but you know, in normal times, if your file is updated with, there's also a New England registry of artists, so things may come your way. Anyway.
Thank you for that tip. I hope people heard that.
Yeah. And it's very wonderful to know that there are people who really do care about supporting artists in our government. So, and creative thinking, whatever, different opportunities. Okay. So I think you're going to have to see if can you make me a co-host? I'm somebody else now because I changed computers. So I need permission to
Yep, one moment. Okay, you're all set.
Okay. So thank you for showing that to me, Nadine, because it really, or all of us, because it really is inspirational. I don't want to take over if other people have comments. Okay, well, I'll show you back to this. Okay, share screen. Okay, sorry, I'm not always like, okay, so I'll do this a little bit
Hi,
more
Julia.
and then talk a bit and then do some drawing. So I think this is where I was when my other computer died. So this serratium where the lighting is really different, so you can see there's an outer case, which actually makes drawing it a lot easier. And then I showed this piece, which I think this was exhibited a lot in New Haven and in New York, actually to show that Yona, who had to leave, that she curated in New York at Columbia at the Jewish Center there. And this is the very slowed down video that I made of the movement, which I think is important to think about if anybody's going to jump in and draw. And if anyone is thinking of drawing, now is a good time to find any kind of paper you have and any kind of pencil or crayons or anything. And so here's the guy again, and I have a different serratium, and I will come back to these just to give you an idea of what I have that we can draw. This is a empty shell of a tintinid, and this is a way that I often have people start as a practice. So if you've done any of the workshops that I did, Rose took the workshop last year. This is something, a parfait glass, but it's for the tintinid, that it's round, and I like to draw this to warm up. So one of my goals right now is to bring the energy that I had to drawing from the figure, because when I was a student, I drew, and many years later, I think I probably spent 15 years drawing from the model once a week. It also, that whole idea that every artist had to draw from the model, life drawing sessions also was an incredible aspect of the 70s, because you could go to a new town, you could go anywhere, find out where the drawing workshops were, and you were immediately part of the art community. So it was I miss it on many levels. And you would get to know people. Like when I was living in Butte, Montana, I got to know the sister who was teaching art at the parochial high school. I mean, I just not somebody I would have met in my life otherwise. So it was always really wonderful to do that. But I want to bring that energy of life drawing. So as a warm up, I am going to grab a scrap piece of paper from somewhere. Well, here's a notebook. It's not so much scrap. It's actually good paper, but I have it here. I have some plankton drawings, by the way. I can't do this left-right thing. In here that I did in the past. These do not look like my drawings, but they must be. Doesn't look like my hand. And I'm just going to warm up by taking a minute and drawing this. I'm going to put on my timer. Is anyone else drawing?
This is Julia. I'm gonna draw.
Yeah. Are you going to draw?
Yeah, but I came here to draw.
Okay. And by the way, I have a friend who's trying to get in right now, who said registration was closed.
You can just, I think that if she just hits the Zoom link, she should be able to get in.
But you know, then I have to tell him what the Zoom is. I have to get off.
He can't just go to the New Haven Public Library and go to events.
It's a little complicated.
Well, if you found the registration link, then the Zoom link, the link to the Zoom should be in the same place as the registration.
You know, they really shouldn't close the registration. I'm sorry.
I think it's just part of the system. You don't even need to really register.
Yeah.
So if I go to, hold on a second, I'm sorry, everybody, but if I go to the Facebook link right now, is everybody seeing me on Facebook?
Yeah, I actually have you both on Zoom and on Facebook.
Okay, but I mean, they're not seeing my Facebook page. Oh, I see. Okay, so how do I get to the event on Facebook?
On Facebook, go to the library's webpage, NHFPL, the library's Facebook
that's
page.
too long. Julia, can you give me the link in a message?
Yeah. Give me 1 second, I'll grab the link.
And then I can message him because
I was on my phone. I'm going to jump over to, I actually shared it as a watch party of all things.
okay. Yeah, it's way too complicated to go to the library and type in the thing. It's a very difficult thing to get to, actually.
Hold on, I'm putting it in the chat.
I'm going to go to events and see if I can find it in events, but it's not going to be in my events anymore. Oh, here it is.
Now it's posted to Zoom chat, so you can find the link there.
It's in Zoom chat. Oh, that was
Yeah.
a smart thing to do. Okay, I got to stop share and go. Okay, that's the Facebook link. But
Oh, hold on, I'll get the right one.
Event.
I will get the right one.
I think I can get it from that, but yeah, sorry. Okay, I want to, hopefully people can just hang on for a second.
Here we go. Where it says it's live now, I'm going to copy this link.
Is this the one that I
Here it is.
So
Here
I posted it in the
chat.
Zoom chat as well.
Awesome.
Okay, the Zoom chat
That's
is,
the actual live one.
I think that the way to do these in the future is to always put the link in the Zoom chat so that so that people can just get it quickly to send to people.
Well,
Okay.
it kind of seems counterintuitive because you have to be in Zoom to get the link to Zoom.
But she's saying to
Yes,
send
but
it
if
to
people
other
are
people.
texting you that they can't get in, you have to have a way to tell them quickly. Okay, so here we are back here. So I'm going to share the screen to this and play it and see if I can get my timer up on here. So I am only going to spend like a minute doing it. So I'm going to play it and in a minute try to get the idea of the roundness and the motion as a kind of warm up. So I'm going to hit start. It's going. Okay, so we're like at 3 seconds. And I have it moving on purpose so that you can kind of remember that what we're looking at once moved, once was alive. So we're at 20 seconds and this is really what I should be doing more of all the time, is warming up more.
Yeah, I mean, this really is such a nice exercise.
You know, when I had the show last year, Sarah actually thought maybe we should just have these videos in, which I made. And by the way, I was moving, not the glass, obviously, but the magic of video. Okay, that's 1 minute. So I just, you know, I have something very, very loose. That's all I was trying to do. I wasn't trying to capture the real thing. I was trying to get the sense of motion. So people, I'm going to do it again. So I don't know if people are up for doing it again, but I am. So I'm going to hit play so it's full screen and start. And for me, I think the important thing is the sense of roundness, not the objecthood, the motion and the roundness.
Mm.
So the here's and nows. And I'm not going to, I personally am not going to bother with the stem because I'm trying to give the idea of if it were a plankton, it wouldn't have a stem at the bottom. So that's 42 seconds. It's like 20 seconds left. Four seconds. Okay, stop. Okay, so I'm feeling like pretty loose right now. Let's see what else I have on here. I do have other things moving, but what I'd like to do is go back and play the plankton moving and then move into the serratium so that when we draw the still serratium that we can actually see, there's this feeling that it's moving. And I'm going to draw the serratium over here on top of my thing, but okay, so I'm going to start this for a minute first. I'm doing the moving one, which is really a challenge.
One moved right off the screen.
One of them moved right off the screen. Right?
It was just like it just went across.
And by the way, the two little spiky things are not the same size, if you're wondering. So, you know, we think everything in the planet is symmetrical, but that's not really true. Okay, so that's at 42 seconds.
So are we
Are we what?
Did you take the other one up? Okay. Are we supposed to be drawing these now?
Yeah. Okay, that was a minute. Yeah, you're supposed to try to draw these guys. And then
Okay.
I'll give you the one that's not moving. So let's do it again. You can draw the one that's floating just a little bit, or you can try to get the guy who comes screaming across.
You just right across.
This is what I got. So it's just very quick and rough. And I'm going to actually take a different color pencil so that I can stop wasting paper and go right on top of the same paper. So I'm gonna say start and we'll just do another minute of this guy. Okay, start. Oh my goodness. And you know, he's got that thing that comes out. I don't know what it's called. Guess we don't have any of the oceanographers on this call hearing me on this Zoom. Okay, that was 44 seconds. Just to give you an idea of where you are. "58 seconds. That's a minute. Okay. Does anyone else want to hold theirs up?
I don't know if you can see mine.
Well, you can see mine. Mine is not very attractive, but
Oh, there's not like, okay, I'm in the light.
You're too light.
I'm doing
And,
mine.
Oh, there's mine.
oh, cool. Yes. You're very, it's really moving there. Julia's and Debbie, can we see yours? Okay. Yeah, great. And Heidi has one. Okay, this is great. Who
Like the
else?
best use
Okay,
of screen
Catherine
time.
and Leah are not showing us drawings.
Well, I could. I have other stuff on there. I could try.
How do you?
I
Okay.
don't know how to. Should I just turn my? I don't know. How does that work? Can you see anything?
Who's saying that? Leah?
Yeah.
Yeah, if
I
you
don't
turn
know.
off screen sharing for a moment, we might be able to see everyone's drawings a bit
Oh,
better.
I can.
I'm gonna stop screen sharing. That's right. Now
I lost. Hold on.
I've lost everybody.
Here. So I don't know if you can. I can't see. So there.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
Yep.
there's other stuff.
Those are wonderful. Yeah. Great.
Yeah. Anyway.
And Julia's and Liz. Yeah, I'm feeling much more energized. You know, I do, this is a little bit of the feeling I do African dance for exercise, and this feels like exercise. So I am going to do screen sharing. We'll do this one more time, and then we can go into the still that we can actually draw for 3 minutes. So let's screen share. Video going and start. Okay, so we'll do this for a minute. I'm gonna make it bigger, sorry. Okay.
Mine already looks like a duck.
Well, you know, there's a certain similarity. I mean, things in nature do look a lot alike. So people are always saying something looks like something else. It's not like an accident. Okay, you're at 50 seconds. Okay, so that's a minute. So now, and I don't know if everybody can see this. I'm actually going to move it over here. So depending on how your screen is set up, you can see this guy. So
Yeah.
this is a still of the guy. So I'm going to say start, and I'm actually going to come over. I am going to be drawing the guy with crayons on my background over here, my early stage. You know, it's like the cooking shows over here. And if you have anything, I'm happy to send this to you if you have anything you want to draw on top of it later. So I'm going to say, okay, start for 3 minutes.
Cynthia, I was remembering when we did this in person and you really encouraged us to make this like up big.
Yes.
Which was scary, but we did it.
It's a good memory. You have to go big and also start with one color and add another color on top to define it. So you actually have a lot of time. That's only, we're not even up to a minute yet. We're only up to 44 seconds. And I said 3 minutes. So you actually have a lot of time to get in and define this guy. This little serratium here. I
didn't bring all my colored pencils, so he's just going to be really shading.
Well, and just remember, everybody, that change colors and oops, that's not crayons, that's not right on the surface. We're about halfway through. That was about a minute and a half. And the actual color that it is doesn't mean anything, because the color that you're seeing is under the microscope anyway. We don't have microscopes in real time in the ocean. I think they're being developed, and there may be a few people somewhere in the world who have them, but that's not something we're looking at. We're looking at out of its habitat. Okay, that's a little over 2 minutes, so you have about a minute left.
Something that's been digitally enhanced so you can see it clearer.
Not really.
No?
Well, the microscope software does it, and I blew it up, and I think there is one that I lightened, but I didn't work on it very much. I'm going to show you some examples later of ones that I worked on a lot, but unless Pierre did a lot of work on them, and I don't think he did. However, what we now call Photoshop is actually in the imaging software of many devices. So about 12 seconds left. 5. Okay, so that's 3 minutes. Doesn't it feel great? I don't know about you guys, but I'm having a really great time.
I'm so super excited that I was like, I'm putting this on my calendar.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually getting art done, you know, which feels really fun. Okay, so this is, I believe, the same serratium, but I'm not the same species, not oceanographer. It's Serratium lineatum. So this guy might be a different kind of serratium. I'm not sure. Okay, never give the wrong information. So we'll spend 3 minutes on this one. Starting now. You can start out really light. I mean, I think many of you are trained artists, so I'm like talking to people, but just to remind you.
I am not, so I'm happy being reminded.
Okay. And one of the things I have to say is that I actually don't know of anybody else who's doing this, who's taking like a really loose approach to imagery that is normally done, you know, as very tight scientific imagery. So
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that I'm finding really exciting, that we can give it that kind of life, breathing life into it. I've only done about a minute, so you still have time to get in there and look for some of the form. And okay, so if you're not a trained artist, I will say, remember the information is on the image, not on your paper, right? So you want to be looking at the image more than at your paper.
I have to say that's a big exercise in trust, because I know I've been told that before when taking classes with you and with a couple of other people too. It's like, look up at the image.
Yeah, I mean, that's where the information is, what's there.
Yeah.
I once had a student who kept drawing things sideways. I mean, she just couldn't, she would make them straight. Like if she was drawing from the figure, but she had a side view, she always kept making it head on. Okay, that's 2 minutes, you have a minute left. She just couldn't imagine how she could get what was happening that would, so I thought that was kind of interesting. Oops, this is coming down.
Jimmy, let me just check my browser.
Okay, we're coming up a couple more seconds. That's it. So that's 3 minutes. I don't know. Can everybody see? Let's see what people did. Can you? I'm going to stop the share for a second, if I can. You know what? My fingers are so filled with crayons right now.
I think I could cancel it if you'd like me to.
No, yeah, I finally got it. Okay.
There we go.
It was so funny. Okay. So I'll show you. I don't know if you can see what I did on top of my.
Oh, look at that.
But I mean, I had the background. I mean, not the background. I had the background philosophically, but I also put this piece up here that I wanted to work on. So, so let's see what some other people did. Julia, you are like so experienced now. Okay.
I'm so proud of myself. This is my third class.
She's
With
done
a
it 3
function.
times. I've given 3 workshops in New Haven. This isn't really a workshop. This is more. Heidi, let's see. Yours is, oh, it's so cool. You've really got this. And Debbie, let's see what you have.
What did you do?
Oh, it's really fun. This is really great.
Well, my daughter was.
I feel like our plankton have personalities.
They definitely have personalities. Leia, do you have yours?
Let's see.
Oh yeah,
There
cool.
it is.
There they
Oh,
are.
great. You know, this is like the plankton revolution. They're gonna take over. And Nadine, we can kind of see you've been doing some.
Yeah, my daughter was doing these. I went to the bathroom.
Okay,
Nice.
really great. So when Heidi and I were roommates in 1970 in Seattle, and I had a studio kind of in the pantry area. Do you remember? And you've been making art since then. So yeah, 1970, that was just like a few years ago. Okay.
That was the year that I was born.
Cynthia, can I ask you if I have this ancient memory that I don't know if it's a figment of my imagination, but I seem to remember the science building going upstairs every day, and in the stairwells that there were large photographs of plankton that I loved. Am I imagining that? Is this somewhere in your brain?
I totally forgot that you were there. Okay, so this is one of the you never know what you're going to do in your life that comes out to be important later on. So Heidi and I and Steve, who was on earlier, all were at Antioch College. Steve Moser was on it. Yeah, we were all at Antioch College in Yellow Springs, Ohio, at the same time, in late 60s into early 70s. And we had this work study program. So that was like for 3 months or 6 months, you went someplace else, completely someplace else, and worked. And I had never been west of the Mississippi. So I decided I was just going to go to Seattle, just like to go to Seattle, because everyone else was going to San Francisco. You know, like if you go to San Francisco, be sure to wear a flower in your hair tie. So I didn't want to do that. So, and I can't remember, Heidi, did you already have your job lined up before you went?
Yeah, I got to work in an emergency room. It was my dream job.
Oh, great. Yeah. And Heidi is an RN now, right? Are you, busy? Are you working? Busy
I'm
time?
retired. I do a lot of volunteering, flu clinics and all.
Well, you're so needed right now too. So anyway, I didn't have a job, but I just wanted to go west. So I started looking for a job. And because it was spring and a lot of visiting school groups were going to museums, I actually was hired fairly quickly at the Pacific Science Center. And we probably at the Pacific Science Center were the first people to attach a camera to a microscope and put plankton on the screen. Nobody else had done that. And the person I was working with, Carol Kubota, who I've tried to reach, but you know, she's retired, she's not reading her university email. I haven't been able to reach her to tell her, look what you started, because you know, I did that in 1970. I looked at these plankton, and then literally did not look at plankton again until, what year is it now? Maybe 2004. I was looking at plankton. So it was just, but the seed was planted and I knew what plankton were. So when I was teaching at RISD at Rhode Island School of Design, and the students were doing stuff from nature, and then we got these great microscopes, and the idea was, let's do some plankton stuff. It was there. I knew what I was, it's just amazing how your life fits into place. You know?
Nothing you ever learn will be wasted.
Nothing you ever learn will be wasted. And in fact, to go all the way back, in high school biology, I really struggled because I'm incapable of memorizing and I'm incapable of spelling. So there were like, you know, these words for species and things, and I couldn't do that and I can't memorize. But everything that I learned, I remembered. So when I got to Antioch and I did the placement test, I actually placed out of having to take biology. Like I got an honors. So I got like almost a C in high school biology, but how you're only supposed to retain 50%, I retained like everything I learned, I retained. So it's okay, my little spiel. So let's go back and do a little bit more. We drew this guy. Okay, so here's a tintinid. empty shell. So it's not the whole tinted, but this is why I was showing you the glass. So let's start and do 3 minutes on this guy.
Tape on that one kind of reminds me of an empty wine bottle.
Yes, exactly. I almost brought up an empty wine bottle. So they do look like empty wine bottles. That's kind of the point. In the exhibit that I had at Art Space, I had empty wine bottle.
Sounds like someone else has a cat keeping them company. Mine's sitting on
Yeah,
my
that's-
lap and purring.
Mine just came in from outside. Thank God, because yeah, it's cold.
Yeah, it's cold out.
Really cold. I don't think pets are going to be doing the outside. So that's 1 minute. This one, you know, may not take the full 3 minutes to get the sense of it, except because there's not anything in it right now. Normally there would be. There'd be an organism inside. What's the matter? Eat your food.
Oops.
So I know a lot of people had to leave to go to other things. Somebody posted on Facebook today, everything happens on Wednesday, which is actually true. So that's 2 minutes. You can draw it more than once, which you might have noticed I'm doing. Now you still have 30 seconds, 20 seconds left on this one. I've already drawn it 3 times, so I don't know if I'm gonna. Okay, so that's 3 minutes. So I'm gonna stop sharing for a second to show you some of the things. Like, I've been sending my digital unfinished pieces to Zazzle when they have a sale and getting these big prints for like $20 when they're on half price. But something else that you can do is that I did earlier. This is really nice cardstock that I had 2 pieces of it. I split the image into 2 parts and then had this printed out and just taped it. You can't see the tape, but taped it together. And there are a lot of ways. This is actually, there's some diatoms on here that I actually digitized at the public library last year for the workshop that we gathered in Narragansett, but I'm not doing a very good job. This was one of the pieces that led to a piece that was in my exhibit. So let's see what else is here. Yeah, this was leading up to the piece that was in the exhibit. And then I actually had that piece. This was hanging over here, was an earlier version of it. That's not the one that was in the exhibit because we decided this one didn't print out quite brightly enough, printed out by Spoonflower on fabric. But this was also printed out on archival paper, but the color didn't pop on archival paper. So I went back in and drew with colored pencils on top of it. So it's been like in and out of the computer many, many times. And I really like this fluidity. I feel that it's something that the digital age has given us, you know, the idea that you can have cheap printing. So just wanted to throw that out there, that there are lots of ways. And I had the nice cardstock ones done by Color Company here, but you can find different places, or just use your cheap home printer and print letter size and draw on it. I need a certain scale because I have to draw with my whole arm, as I'm sure many of the rest of you do too. I can't, I mean, if I'm not using my whole arm, I'm not drawing. So anyway, I'm just looking in the comments.
People,
Heidi wants to add ovaries. That's great.
Not that one, the other one.
The one that went, the serratium that went up like that.
Yeah.
Yes, I get it. Yeah. So as I said, there's a certain amount of, and I just realized they can't be the same serratium species because that one is symmetrical and the other one we were looking at. So it's a different kind. Yeah, totally. So
Cynthia, can you explain to people when you're saying like you can only draw with your one arm? What do you mean by that for people who might not understand?
Well, some people have a tendency to draw with their wrist muscles or their hand muscles. But when you're a trained artist, not just in the Western tradition and in many different traditions, there are different ways of holding pencils. So we were trained, those of us who were trained in North America, at least, and probably people in Europe, were trained to draw with our whole arm so that you hold whatever you're drawing with and your hand stays relatively stable. It's your arm that does the movement. So when I was teaching, if I had a student who was a football player, you know, you think, oh, how is this football player going to make art? But in fact, the football players like got it, you know, the athletes got it because they do things with their whole arms all the time. When I took a calligraphy class in Japan, it was very hard because you actually don't do traditional Japanese calligraphy with your whole arm, but you don't hold your hand like a pencil, you know, like kids do when they're drawing either. You hold the brush a certain way and move the wrist muscles. So knowing how to draw is not, you know, it's not the way that you were necessarily taught to draw as a child. And then after being trained to do it, I mean, the calligraphy teacher could not, the first one I went to, could not understand why I couldn't change my way of drawing, but I just couldn't. And then I went to another calligraphy teacher who had actually gone to school in Hawaii, not to study art, but she had known artists. And so she kind of got it and coached me through. So anyway, anyone have any other thoughts? Okay, I'm getting texts from these friends of mine and I just have to like
Deborah, I like yours.
Ignore them for another 15 minutes or right on a Zoom. Okay, on a Zoom. There should be like an automatic on a Zoom, but I didn't want to turn off messaging altogether in case there were people trying to get in, as one was, but then he lost the moment. Okay, so.
I liked your explanation also of the different printing, because I think that a lot of people kind of forget about that. I like that you printed some of your stuff on fabric, and then you also augmented the stuff that was printed with pencil or other accoutrements.
Right. Like if the print doesn't come, it all actually started. I have this one, which is how it started. The LA Center for Digital Art had an exhibit that if you paid for them to print it, you were automatically in the exhibit. So I sent this, I know, it's a little cheating, but it's a nonprofit organization. So I had this printed, but now I've already drawn, and it came back and it was in the exhibit, and the print was just like so dark, I couldn't stand it. And it coincided, I can put it down, you don't need to see the bad print, although I drew on top of it and made something great out of it. So it coincided with the closing of the Grove, so I was able to jump into the last 3 weeks or a month that the Grove was open. I was able to use a bigger, gorgeous space as my studio without paying what that big, gorgeous space would have been. And I just put this up and I started drawing. So that's the first time that I was really just attacking my pieces. And then I re-photographed fragments of that. And that became the show that I had at Art Space. So that was really cool. And I printed it on fabric so I could go large, because going large on archival paper, it's not that I wouldn't do it if somebody wanted to buy it, but if you're spending $250 a print or $200 a print just to show them once and have them sit in the basement. So, you know, you're looking at a show that's going to cost, well, might cost a couple $1,000s to produce, and it's up once. So then I thought, well, fabric's really great because it's less expensive. It fades, but it's up there long enough, hasn't faded yet in a year that's noticeable. So I really encourage people to explore all that. And I used to have a printer. I've gone back and forth about whether to have my own printer, but like I'm really off that now. It's just another thing to maintain. And some people love it. They love the control. I experience it as if you don't run it every week, it doesn't function anymore. So it's like, oh, did I print this week? You know, what I have to do, I was printing out letters on fancy archival inks. I'd just rather send it out and take my chances. And then there's some excellent printers that I deal with when I want something really good and important. So should we have about 15 minutes left. So I do have some more drawing that we can do. I have this turning again, but I don't think we need to do that. I think we were pretty good at that. This is what would be inside the tintinted.
Whoa.
Yeah, not the same species of tintinted as that shell. That shell that you saw was long and thin, but they're very related and similar. So
This one.
you want to draw this one?
I can draw anyone. I just love this one.
Yeah, this one's really great. I don't know. I don't have it looping. I didn't mean for it to stop. Okay, just play. I can't find my clock. Okay, so let's take 2 minutes and some of you are probably already drawing this. I'll give you 2 minutes to draw this guy. Oops. I think I'm just going to have to stand here and press him again each time because he's, well. Really hard to do them upside down. That's what I'm trying to do. Okay, 15 seconds and we'll be at 2 minutes on this guy. Okay, so that's 2 minutes on him. Let's see, I had the tinted shell going the other way too, just to see what would happen if people drew it the other way. But do people want to draw it going this way? I'm not getting a response from the crowd.
Oh, this one?
Okay, I'm gonna move on.
I did want.
Okay, I just wanted to show you, this was one of my tinted works that I did. So I took an old watercolor and I threw it together in the computer and worked on it some more. So I encourage you to think about doing that. Okay, so this is interesting. This is a head-on view of a larva, whoops. And this, I believe, is the same larva for a copepod, which a copepod under the microscope can look a little bit like a crab, kind of, but not quite. So we see those arm things, and this is the larva stage. So I'm gonna go back to this one, and let's just take 2 minutes and do this, because it's just so nice and round. Okay. Round but not circular.
A little bit like a fried egg.
Except that there's more happening. That's the two-dimensional look, but it's going back in space behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can get that sense that there's more to it than what you're seeing. And this one I did lighten. So the image that I had was much darker, but you know, it's all, I went to somebody's talk a few weeks ago who kept saying, I don't use Photoshop, it's all in the camera. And in fact, everything that she used was the Photoshop of 10 years ago. It's, you know, what's in the camera now when is software that makes the camera work. And that's the Photoshop of 10 years ago. Just doing it automatically. So, okay, about
Looks
30.
like yarn.
Pardon?
It's like yarn.
Like an arm?
Yarn.
Oh, yarn, yeah. Well, it's got an outer shell also. And then, because it's a larva, and I think it has some kind of shell, but I'm not, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know the biology behind this guy.
Cynthia, have you ever drawn embryos?
No, because I draw like what I mean, there's a real benefit to working. I'm gonna stop, go to the next one. There's a real benefit to working with the same material that the oceanographers that I know are working with, because then when I attend the lab meetings, I just hear all this stuff about what they're studying, and it gives context. So this is another copepod larva. I just want to see what else I have here. Yeah, I'm just going to show you a little more of what's here. So
I just wanted to ask you before you close out, do you want to just talk about some of the work you've done with the oceanographers in Rhode Island?
yeah, so this is actually from one of the oceanographers, Heather McNair, was working on this series with Nicole Hammond, who was a student intern last year. And she gave me this, and one of the challenges was they wanted this for a paper, but what they wanted was just one of the guys. So in fact, they gave me 4 things and they wanted one of each. Now, what you just saw was actually higher resolution than what I had. So, you know, this is what they gave me, and I had to go in there and pick out the clearest one of the guys and then blow it up about 20 times in order to get what you see here. So it was a real challenge. This, I love this. This is a species I didn't know anything about, Skeletonoma. Never heard of it. It is a kind of diatom chain, but when you look at, oh, let's see, here's an individual, and well, it's not an individual, it's a colony. I mean, each one is, they're a chain. So you think of it as one, it looks like it's one thing, but it's not one thing. It's, you know, the way that coral is a colony. So what you see here, and you guys can be drawing while I have these up. You don't have to like feel you have to listen. So it's really cool about this. Again, I blew it up and you can see it's got these strands kind of holding it. I couldn't get it out of their photograph more precise so that you could see that those strands, really see the individual strands, but they're kind of there. I want to go back for a second because this was also a creative thing, which is that I took the original that they gave me back here and duplicated it and turned it and changed the contrast and piled it up so that it gave the feeling that you're kind of in the water with a mess of them. So these are the kinds of things that kind of get me excited, and this was useful. They wanted to submit it for a competition for a holiday card. We don't know if it was accepted. Probably not, because we haven't heard. I thought it was kind of cool because it's red and green. Again, those are the microscope colors, not necessarily the color of the organism because it's the lights. So yeah, it's 8:25. So I'll just show you, this is another one they asked me to work from. And I like to end with this reminder. And I've shown this very video before of, the ocean, the water right here in New Haven.
That's a Q bridge off to the distance there.
Yeah, and everybody thinks, oh, wonderful. The ocean is so wonderful. So, the ocean has all this life that we see. We see the seagulls, we see the ducks, we see the seaweed. There's plankton in this water. I actually gathered plankton from this water and took it to the New Haven Public Library, New Haven Free Public Library, and looked at it and used it in the last workshop and in my pieces. But, there's also this clearly industrial waste, and clearly the water is something that we need to think about, that we need to be the stewards of our planet, if I can say that, because I believe it. So we need both, obviously. We need some industry for all kinds of reasons, but we also need to be aware of what's happening on our planet. So that's basically, Nadine, did you have anything else? Nadine, you're on mute.
My daughter is a director, so
Okay.
So
Oh, look, you did a skill and talent drawing. Yeah.
Yes, so I just want to say thank you. I've learned so much about your process, and I love all the different things that you have done and the inspiration that you have provided. I think that I appreciate you coming to my events and participating. I think that you have dropped a lot of knowledge over the last couple of weeks, because Cynthia has been here every week, I think.
I couldn't come last week because I had to get up at 4:15 in the morning Wednesday.
Right, so she came the first week and talked a lot about her artist journey and taking, I guess, a different path in the sense of in your 30s and doing art for art's sake now, I guess, and over the last couple of decades, and not chasing the gallery model, I guess.
Although I don't say no to galleries.
No, You're letting them come to you. You're not chasing them, though, which is a lot different, and I think feels a lot better than feeling validation from an outside source. I think that you get validation of your work from yourself and what you care about. So I just want to say thank you. Next week, we have Ramin that will be coming and talking. We'll be cooking next week because it's the day before Thanksgiving. Ramin is the executive director of the Westport Historical Society, along with being a journalist and a trained chef, and also a cookbook author. And she's written many cookbooks. And so we'll have a really great time. She is Persian and Southeast Asian from Trinidad. And so me being Jamaican, her being Trinidad, I'm sure we're going to cook up some interesting things for Thanksgiving, especially since it's COVID. And I don't know what she's doing. I assume that she's probably staying home. I'm staying home, and it's only going to probably be a dinner for 3. So it'll be interesting to see what I make. I might try and make a black cake because that's something that's difficult, and I want to make something that might be hard. So it takes some time. So please join us next week and cook with us, draw with us, ask us questions.
Can you give us a shopping list if we want to cook with you?
Ooh.
Everyone's going to be cooking whatever they want. We're just cooking. I'm just going to cook whatever I'm going to make before Thanksgiving. So I don't know what I'm going to make actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I'm more freestyle. So it's just going to be, people can ask me questions about Thanksgiving, about different dishes that they can make, whatever. But it's not really a cook along. It's just like we're cooking together. That will be my artwork next week. I'll be cooking.
If people would like to see some recipes from Nadine, her program last week was a cooking program, and we have that video is on Facebook, and we have a link to a document she put together with different recipes. So you can find that in the comments for that video.
Great. Let's see. Heidi just signed off. Debbie and Julia, you're still here. Can you just hold up your drawing?
Oh, whoops, wait a minute. I dropped mine and I startled my cat. Wait a minute. I just have to get the right light.
Oh, so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Oh, wait, this was my favorite one.
You know what? Can you take a picture of it and put it under the Facebook event?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be fun.
Facebook page? Debbie, are you on Facebook?
I don't think she can, but she can put it underneath our pages. I think the Facebook page discussion is closed, but she can put it underneath your page or my page.
Okay, we'll do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Email me your pictures. Just take pictures of them. It looks really great. Catherine, I don't know if you did any drawing while you were here. And the Facebook crowd who I can't see, if you did any drawing, direct message myself or Nadine. It was really great. I don't know how many people were on Facebook. You said there were 4?
Yeah, it looks like there's been 4, seems consistently.
Great. Okay. Really fun. I'm so energized. It's wonderful.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Especially thank you, Cynthia, for your lovely insight and drawing activities.
Oh, thank you. I mean, you put it all together, and Nadine puts it all together. Amazing, amazing balancing aspect. Okay.
We hope to see you all again in the future.
Okay.
Thank you so much. It was great.
Have a great rest of the week, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.